Hooded eyes, 3 tips that lift. Hi, my name's Katie. I'm a professional makeup artist and I'm also a person that is edging towards 50. And as I hit the big 50, I have certainly noticed my eyes just starting to bow down a little. So if you are going through the same things with your eyes, then keep watching, because as a makeup artist, I'm here to show you the really simple techniques and tips you can do with your makeup to help give us our lift. So let's get started. So I've got some foundation and some blush on, but I don't have anything else on. I will say, before you do any eye makeup, it's a really good idea to put a little bit of foundation or concealer on your eyes. It will just take down any redness and create a really good canvas for not only keeping your eyeshadow on for longer, but to help that eyeshadow look its truest form on your skin. So I tend to put foundation or concealer here, and then I will set that with a little bit of loose translucent powder, just so that the concealer or the foundation doesn't crease as my eye moves throughout the day. Now, that's a little bonus tip for you. Now, the second bonus tip is when we're going to be doing our eye makeup, when you look in your mirror at home, I don't want you to go like this. I don't want you to go like that. I want you to, if possible, when you're doing your eye makeup and your eye is hooded, I want you to look in the mirror as how your eyes naturally fall. So none of this, none of that, looking down in your mirror. Keep your eye neutral, looking forward to the mirror, because that will better help you see what you're working with. Because if I go like this and apply my eye makeup, my hood disappears. So I want my hood to fall naturally, so I know when I'm putting eyeshadow, I know where I need to put it to give that effect. I hope that makes sense. So the first thing we're going to do before we even reach for eyeshadow, and don't worry, because you could be watching this thinking, oh gosh, I've never put eyeshadow on, or I've never used eyeshadow in the last 15 years. I promise you I'm going to make it so easy, and we're using minimal products. Now, we're going to start by giving our eyes a lifted look without even reaching for eyeshadow, first of all. And that is our brows, okay? So I want you to get a spoolie brush. If you don't have one of these, you can get an old mascara wand, give it a wash, give it a dry, and then you have your spoolie. And naturally, our brows kind of fall down, or they're just a bit not groomed looking, but I want you to groom your brows. And just by brushing your brow hair up, it will immediately give you the look of a little lift. So if your brow hair is quite long when you do this, then you might like to go and get it tidied up with a professional, or you could just trim the little hairs that poke up. But you can see, just by brushing my brow up, I mean, any brow hairs here that are poking, I can just pop those down once it's past the arch, because I don't want the arch to stick up. I can slick that down, but I do want before the arch to look lifted. Now look how much that has lifted this eye just by using this spoolie. Now what you can do is, once you've got the hang of that, is put a little bit of hairspray on that spoolie and then brush that into place. But that is a really quick little lift there without even using any makeup. Now, if I want to go one step further, I'm going to get myself a brow pencil. This one, if you're not used to doing your brows, this makes it super easy. It's just one shade and it works from blonde hair to the darkest hair, depending on how firm you press this color onto your skin. So I'm blonde, so I will do it quite lightly. But if you had much darker hair, you would just press a little bit firmer. Okay, so it's a really clever little invention, this. And I'm going to show you an easy way to do your brows to really give you that lift before you even reach for eyeshadow. So your pinky finger is your best friend. It acts as your stabilizer, a bit like when we were learning to ride our bikes when we were little. This is our stabilizer right here. So put your stabilizer on your cheekbone. It helps steady your hand and stops it shaking. And then excuse me, I'm going to come close. You're just going to line from the start of your brow to just where your arch starts, okay? And you're going to line, can you see where my hair is starting, the roots are starting to grow there? Most of us women with our brows, we get very gappy brows here. If we just draw a line right where the roots start across to where the arch starts, like that, can you see I've just done a line just to the arch. Then you get your spoolie and you brush that line up to blend it into the rest of your brow hair. So the line does not look obvious. It just looks like you've got thicker brow growth here. This is where we get really gappy brows. Can you see how natural that looks? Now, once upon a time in my 20s, I overplucked my brows here. And what that is doing is not making my brows look such a good shape. So if you've done the same, you can take a pencil, hold it from the corner of your nose vertically, and this will show you where your brow hair is supposed to start. So mine's supposed to start there. So all I'm going to do is take the pencil and I'm going to do little flicks up to create the look of brow hairs. Now the trick to drawing brow hairs is not drawing a hair like this, because that isn't how hairs work. Imagine the root and then flicking up to almost nothing. So you draw your brow hair like this, like that, flick up. So you're not going to go like this, you're going to do little flick ups. And that gives the look of like the root is here and then the tip of the brows there. Can you see the difference? So I'm going to do a few more. Now, don't overdo it here, because, you know, sometimes you see those brows that look almost like they've been put on with a Sharpie pen. It's often, I mean, that's how some people might like their brows. So no shade there. However, for brows to look really natural, if they're left a little bit gappy here, because naturally we're gappy there, don't overfill. So you just want to put in a few. Can you see? Just there. And then I might think, wow, that looks really natural. Perhaps you've got some gaps after your arch here. Perhaps you've overplucked there. You just do the same. But rather than going outside of the hairline, you're going to go in the hairline this time and just pencil into the hair. And then you might think, oh, well, that's easy. I'm getting my confidence. So now you could even enhance the height of your arch. And if you enhance the height of your arch, your eyebrow will look higher and then your eye will look more lifted. There's loads more tips coming here, so stay tuned because I'm really excited to teach you them all. So can you see where my hair is growing there? If I just add in a few more hairs. Now it's good to know that when our hairs are growing, okay, they don't all grow in one direction. Okay, they grow this way, they grow that way, kind of cross and cross over. So you don't want it to look too perfect. So just look at where your hair is growing, in the direction it's growing, and follow that direction. And I'm gradually just increasing the height of my arch. And then I'm going to take my spoolie and brush it into place. So what do we think? In fact, I'm just going to do this eye so we can start seeing the difference that these little tips are making. Natural, very natural, but just, you can see it really does not just lift my eye just a touch, but it really does frame the eye. And I think as we get older, framing our eyes and making them appear larger is really, well, it gives me a little pep in my step, because I've certainly noticed as I've got older and my eyes have started to hood, my eyes seem to look smaller than they once did. So all these tips are not only going to give you that lift, but they're also going to make our eyes look larger, which is great, especially if we're wearing glasses. Okay, so next tip is, I'm looking here because I've written down all my tips to teach you. in my gold book. Okay, so this one is really exciting. So this is where we're going to use an eyeshadow. The eyeshadow is this peachy pinky color. Now the reason I'm using this, and by the way, if you're interested in seeing anything that I'm using in this tutorial, you can find a link above or below. So this color here, the reason we're using it is because it really brightens every single skin tone. And when we brighten this area on our eye, it brings it forward and it creates a more open look. So to do this, I'm not going to use any fancy brushes because I want to make this tutorial really easy and accessible. So I'm just going to take my pinky finger. You might have lots of makeup brushes, in which case go ahead and use your makeup brush. But I want to make this tutorial as accessible for everyone. And I know as a makeup artist working with lots of different women, not everyone has lots of eye makeup brushes. So using our fingers sometimes can actually be our best tools as long as they're clean. So you're going to pat the colour onto the lower lid. Just going to build that colour up. I'm not wiping, I'm patting, because when I pat on the colour, I get more control over where that colour goes, but also it looks more intense. And because this colour is such a lovely natural colour, I'm not worried about it looking too intense. But can you see how it's looking really natural, but look how much it's brightening and opening this eye. Now, I'm going to just, with my clean finger, give it a blend. When I want to blend with my fingers, I use just a light feather motion like this. And I blend upwards and outwards. Now, all I've done is used these products here. But look at how much that's given me just more of an open eye look. Now, the next thing we're going to do is this comes with this kind of creamy, peachy liner here. You might be thinking, oh, I would never wear a liner like that. Well, keep watching because I think I'm going to convert you. Because this colour here can be worn just a little bit on the lower waterline here, not right the way around, but just in the middle here. And it can also be used on the inner corner to brighten and also under our brow arch. And when we put this colour in these three places, it really creates the most beautiful lift. So let's firstly apply this to our lower waterline. So excuse me if this ekes you out, look away. You're going to just gently line just in the middle, just to frame your iris. Well, you're not going to take it all the way across, just to frame your iris. Now, once I've got mascara on, that's really going to look beautiful and natural and just make the whites of my eyes look brighter and whiter. And then we're going to put a little bit under, kind of like a few millimeter in width, under our arch like that. With our pinky finger, make sure it's clean, microfiber cloth, so you're best friends. Just pat and blend that in so it doesn't look like an obvious line. It just looks like your brow bone is slightly lighter here. Can you see? That gives the look of lift. In fact, I'm going to build it up a little bit more. I'm going to make it a bit thicker. And this is what you can do at home, is you can start a little, see, think, oh yeah, that works, that looks nice, and then just build your confidence. And don't forget, with makeup, everything can be wiped off. You know, it's all about us gaining confidence and see it as a tool to give us a pep in our step. Nothing more than that. Although I say that, but honestly, like for me, it's such a nice routine to do in the mornings. I put on some nice music or podcast, and I feel like it's the only time in the day when other people don't kind of need me. So it's really, really nice. Okay, gonna put it on the inner corner here, because when we do a little bit of a lift here, and take it down just around our tear duct area there. And then we're gonna blend. Yeah, I'm liking that. I think once I've got my mascara on, that's really just, you can see it just pops, makes the eye just pop. Now, let's tackle the actual hood. We've brightened, we've lifted, but let's tackle the hood. So for that, you will need an eyeshadow brush, but just one. And this one I found to be the easiest to use to give the most natural effect. You can see it on Beauty in the Boutique. There'll be a link somewhere, but you might have one at home similar. What you're looking for is a brush that is very soft at the edges. So you don't want anything that's tightly packed like this, because this is a lot harder. And when something's harder like that, it's gonna make more of an impact. And we want to create a soft, diffused look to the shadow. So when you want a soft, diffused look to your eyeshadow, choosing a brush that isn't so densely packed and is very light and domed at the tip makes it much, much easier. And this is my best brush in my makeup kit, and believe me, I own hundreds. So we're also going to use a eyeshadow colour that is a browny mushroomy colour, okay? This one is a bronzer and a contour colour in one. So if you have a contour colour or a bronze that isn't too tan looking, you want something that's got a little bit of grey in it, because the colour, when you've got a grey undertone in a bronzer or a brown eyeshadow, it's going to create the look of more of a shadow look, so it doesn't look like so much like a tan colour. And that shadow is what creates natural contours in our face. And when we put this colour over where our hoods are, it knocks that hood back as if it's in the shadows. And in turn, you know, where we lightened our brow bone here, that pushes forward and looks more lifted. So we're going to put our eyeshadow brush into to this shadow. Well, this one's a contour bronzer palette. And then we're going to tap off. And if you feel like there's too much in your brush, use the palm of your hand to dab, to take off, or your microfiber cloth. And then remember your pinky finger, it's your best friend, it's your stabilizer. You're going to look in the mirror to see where your hood naturally falls, okay? So mine falls there. And then you're gonna place the brush, holding your pinky finger as your stabilizer, right on that hood. And you're gonna gently, like a little windscreen wiper, just go backwards and forwards over that hood. Look at that. I've not used a lot of product, but look at how lifted that looks. I've just used these. If you get a bit more braver, you can apply a little bit more. So you're going to look in your mirror, straight on so you can see where your hood is. Pinky finger as your stabilizer, and then gently wash over the hood. And I'm not like, my hood kind of finishes there, but I'm taking it round like a rainbow shape so that it all blends together and looks natural. Look at that, so natural. And then what I like to do is to make my eyes look larger, I'll put a little bit more on my brush, tap off, and this time I squeeze my brush so it's thin like that, and I run it right the way along my lower lash line. And this creates the look of shadow under my eye, and when I have my mascara on, and I've got such a good mascara tip to show you, it's gonna make my eyes look larger. It kind of creates like the most natural sort of smokiness to your eye. I mean, no one's gonna look at you and think you've got loads of eye makeup on. That just looks really natural and, you know, like no makeup eyeshadow type thing. Okay, who's excited for another tip? I've got no one here, I'm presuming you are, so keep watching because I'm really excited for this one. Okay, so the next tip is how you apply your mascara. So I do recommend a smudge-proof mascara, because certainly as we age, if our lashes hit our hoods, it's going to create marks up here. So you want to find a smudge-proof mascara. Now the mascara I'm using is smudge-proof, plus it has the added benefit that it's a really small wand. And when you use a small wand on a hooded eye, it's much easier to use, because if you use a fat wand, I just find the mascara gets everywhere because my eyes are kind of closing up a bit. So this technique ensures you never get any clogs, ensures your mascara always looks natural, and it builds your confidence in applying mascara. So you simply hold the wand right at the base of your upper waterline here, and then you blink onto the wand. You are not moving the wand upwards or zigzagging it. You're simply holding it static and blinking onto it. Your eyes are doing all the work. And you'll notice when I'm applying it, I'm actually moving my head and not the wand. And if you can also find a mascara like this one that curls your lashes, that's an added bonus, because when our lashes curl upwards, it creates more of an open look to them. This one also lengthens, which I think is amazing, because when our lashes look more longer, our eyes look larger and more open and therefore more lifted. Now, because this has a very fine tip, it means I can get right into the inner corners. And that means I can catch all the little baby hairs that don't look like they ever exist, but do. So I can frame right the way along my lashes. And this is a really good technique to do, is make sure you apply on the outer corners a couple of extra layers, because that will elongate our eye out and up. If you like a lot of mascara, you just keep blinking on to the wand to build up the coats. I know lots of women don't like to apply mascara on the lower lash line. However, I want you to just try, because if you've got a smudge-proof mascara such as this one, it makes such a difference to how open your eyes look. So just putting a little on the lower lashes. Start right at the roots, like I'm doing. And this time I am moving the wand, because I can't blink my lower lash line on. But then when I want to give my lower lashes more length, I turn the wand vertically and coat. And I make sure I get right into that inner corner there, because that gives me a really lovely frame to my eyes. And then something I like to do at the end is take my spoolie, you know, the one we used earlier for our brows, and I just give my lashes a little brush through. And then this is where you can look at your eye makeup in the mirror and think, can my eyes take any more, or am I happy with how they are? So for example, I might think, do you know what? I could put a little bit more into my socket with this shade here, because I've built my confidence, and I'm thinking, yeah, I want a little bit more there. You know, just play around until you find your comfort zone. So this is the eye I've not done anything to, and then this is the eye I've worked on. And I think this just looks a lot more defined, lifted, but natural. And I think, you know, it looks bigger, it looks more open, the colour looks brighter. Now to finish off, I won't bore you with doing the other eye, but I will say a lovely lip gloss to finish off, a lovely natural eye like we've done, really sets the whole look off. And this is one of my all-time favourite glosses. And I just love, it's got these iridescent particles in it. It's not glittery, but it just makes lips look so full. And I think when you put this with this kind of eye look, I just think it's just beautiful. Anyway, that's me done. I will stop talking. I'm hoping there's a few tips that you've taken from this that's made you think, do you know what? I'm quite excited to do my makeup tomorrow, because that's what I want you to do. I want you to feel excited by makeup, not scared of it. And if you want to see more of what I do, then give me a little thumbs up so I know to send you more. And I'm sending you lots of love. Thank you for watching. Bye.